Ding dong. It seems like the Wicked Witch of the AL West might just finally be dead.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into the Astros trading their best player, becoming sellers, what that means for the AL West, and why pretty much every team thinks it's wide open for the taking. Before we get into that, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Now, I apologize for not getting y'all a Friday episode last week, but you got your 5 episodes. One of my best friends in the world, Matt McCutcheon, the guy who I saw Game 7 of the ALCS with, was in town staying with me, catching up. While that news went down on Friday about Kyle Tucker being traded, we were playing a game of MLB The Show and beating the Astros, as, of course, the Texas Rangers. And I think that maybe Matt and I need to spend some more time together, because the last 2 times we've seen each other, there have been significant blows to the Houston Astros dealt. The time that we hung out before this was, of course, Game 7 of the ALCS, where the Texas Rangers beat those stinking Houston Astros in Houston, the first baseball game I ever went to in Houston. What a delightful first experience it was. What a delightful trade alert to get at the end of the winter meetings. The winter meetings are done, and the Astros might just be done as well. Kyle Tucker is no longer a Houston Astro, and no more will Rangers see him robbing, I believe, 137 home runs, if my calculations are correct, and not just done emotionally, over that tiny little fence in right field. One of the best players in baseball over the past 5 seasons, Kyle Tucker. He's been incredible. And he is the Astros' best player. And they traded him, because they were not going to be able to afford him in free agency after this 2025 season. Oh, what a delightful sound that is. They traded him to the Cubs in exchange for 3 different baseball players, 2 of whom have already been big leaguers, one of whom is going to be, eventually, Isaac Paredes, the third baseman / first baseman of the Cubs, formerly of the Tampa Bay Rays. The Astros were big in the trade market for Isaac Paredes, but just could not get an offer that matched what the Cubs gave up. And Paredes was just bad with the Cubs. He was not very good. He is not a good defensive third baseman. He is a fine defensive first baseman. They also got right-handed pitcher Hayden Wesneski, who is a Houston native who has spent time as a starter and a reliever with the Cubs. And they also received one of the Cubs' top prospects, Cam Smith, a third baseman drafted out of Florida State, I believe 14th overall in this most recent draft, who might end up at first base. But the headline here is that the Astros are sellers. The Astros traded their best player for financial flexibility. Oh, what a delightful thing to hear as a certified, maybe number 1 hater of those Houston Astros, seeing them trade away a very, very, very good player, and a return that seems fine. Isaac Paredes is okay. He's really had one great season. That was back in 2023, where a 4-WAR season, 31 home runs with the Tampa Bay Rays. He's got 4 seasons of club control. If I am remembering that correctly, he's going to be arbitration eligible this year. He's going to make around $6.5 million. He's going to be fine. 3 seasons of club control on Paredes, 5 seasons, I believe, of control on Wesneski, and Cam Smith has not made his MLB debut, but the Astros just trading away this guy who has been their best player, who might have been the best player in the division this past year. Actually, no, I feel very confident saying that Kyle Tucker was the best player in this division last year. And there were even some talks about them trading Framber Valdez. That seems unlikely now, but as good as this return may or may not be, one thing that is not debatable is that the Astros got worse in 2025. This made them worse this year. There is no question about that. And other teams have sensed that there is blood in the water. The AL West has been very, very active this free agency period. This winter, there have been trades, there have been signings, there have been all kinds of, what the heck is this team doing? What are they doing? What are they doing? Everyone senses that the Astros are not the untouchable juggernauts that they used to be. There are teams all up and down this division. Well, the Mariners are they're there. They're maybe going to make some moves later in this offseason, but the Angels are going for it. The Rangers are going for it. The A's are even going for it, and the Mariners are going for 54% of their wins. But the Astros taking this step back is a hugely great sign for the Rangers and for everyone in this AL West that is not a Houston Astros fan. And it seems like the pivot for the Astros is going to be, well, maybe they're going to try and trade for a very old, not very good Nolan Arenado to fill their third base hole and put Isaac Paredes at first base, or maybe they're going to go for a left-handed outfielder. But, I mean, the depth of this lineup, it's not scary. It's not. There's two bats that maybe scare you a little bit. There's, of course, Jose Altuve at the top. Then there's Yordan Alvarez. But outside of that, it's not nearly as deep and terrifying a lineup as it was even in 2023. I mean, Kyle Tucker is gone. Alex Bregman probably gone. Well, that first baseman, Jose Abreu, who they signed, that at one point was terrifying. He is out of baseball because he was so bad. But, I mean, once you get behind in their lineup, behind Yainer Diaz as their cleanup hitter, there's John Singleton, Jeremy Pena, Chas McCormick, Taylor Trammell, and Jake Myers. Not exactly the terrifying juggernaut of a lineup that has run the AL West these last few years. But this is a great sign for Texas. This is a sign that this division is winnable. This is a sign that things are finally changing after years and years and years. It seemed like the Astros were never going to be knocked off their perch, but the Rangers have been coming for that throne, and they beat them in the only playoff series these two teams have ever played. The Rangers have won as many legitimate World Series without cheating as this other team in their division. Actually, I think, well, Oakland has the most World Series, but it's been a hot minute, and I'm not sure with John Fisher that they're going to get back there. But everybody else in this AL West, the amount of legitimate World Series titles in this century, in this millennia, Angels won, Astros won, Rangers won, and the Rangers have the most recent one of this bunch. But I was absolutely floored that this trade took place. I've been looking at their payroll and what this team is going to do for the next few years, and I thought to myself, surely maybe they'll consider trading away Tucker. But this is not the first time that the Astros have done this. The Rangers, one thing that I give them big credit for, one thing that, even though they haven't won as consistently, haven't won an AL West title since 2016, they don't let their players walk for nothing. That's happened consistently with stars with Houston. They've homegrown a lot of stars, or traded for and then built up a lot of stars, or rebuilt a lot of stars. But they've let a lot of these guys go without getting anything in return. Tucker is the first one who they actually traded away before he could hit free agency. But there's George Springer, Garrett Cole, Carlos Correa, Justin Verlander. Now Kyle Tucker's gone. Bregman is a free agent and likely going to be gone with nothing but a competitive balance round A, B, whatever round pick they're going to get for Bregman leaving. And then Framber Valdez, who was talked about being shopped, who apparently isn't going to be shopped now, is a free agent after this next season too. So he might also be right on out the door. And sure, it might take a minute for these Astros to start falling off a cliff. Sure, maybe Cam Smith is a really great hitter. Maybe Paredes is going to be fantastic here. He is such an extremely pull-heavy right-handed hitter that if he had played all his games, this is per Sarah Langs, if Paredes had played all of his games in the Astros Little League, Mickey Mouse kind of ballpark, he would have had 26 home runs last year, because he is such a pull-happy hitter, and because that is such an incredibly easy, cheapy, right-handed pull hitter's dream of a ballpark to play in, but this is the first domino, and every other team in the ALS can sense it. We're talking about what these teams are doing to be aggressive, to take advantage of this top dog falling off, and why the Rangers are actually in the best position amongst all of them to not just compete in 2025, but to start running this division for the next 3, 4, even 5 years. Right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and you can win $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. They've got all kinds of odds for NFL, NBA. They've also got division odds for the AL West, like I've been talking about this whole episode. Still, even after these trades, the Astros favorites at -105. That's wild to me. The Mariners down there at +240, Rangers at +270, and then we really don't have a whole lot of faith in the A's, +2,700 for the A's to win this division. And wow, the Angels all the way down there at the bottom at +3,100. So go visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. This show is also brought to you by SelectQuote. The World Series, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing, teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the best teammates, the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy to your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. If you're in good health, they can work with carriers that could get you the same day coverage for up to $5 million, no medical exam required. These policies are more affordable than you think. You can get coverage for up to $1 million for as little as $20 a month. Go to SelectQuote.com. They shop, you save. Get the right life insurance for you for less at SelectQuote.com/lockedon. Go to SelectQuote.com/lockedon today to get started. That's SelectQuote.com/lockedon. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be back talking about what the Rangers need to do the rest of this offseason to fix this bullpen, the biggest glaring problem they have left to fix this winter. Now, the AL West is open for the taking. The Astros are taking a step back, and everybody in this division knows it. It's not just the Rangers that are being aggressive this winter. The Rangers signing Nathan Eovaldi to a 3-year deal, making a trade for Jake Burger, and also signing a reliever. It's also the A's. It's the Angels, who were the first ones to do much of anything this winter. And, well, the Mariners might be next on this list, but let's get into the A's, the most recent team to win the AL West that is not the Houston Astros, winning it back in 2020. The Rangers, actually, the most recent team to win the AL West, not named the Astros in the most recent full season, back all the way in 2016. But the A's made a big old trade this weekend, acquiring former Ranger great-ish Jeffrey Springs, left-handed starting pitcher from the Rays, in exchange for 3 different prospects: Jacob Lopez, Will Sampson, and Jacob Waters as well. Lopez and Waters, both the Jacobs, are starting pitching prospects, and Will Simpson is a first baseman / third baseman. The A's also acquired where'd he go? Joe Boyle, who is a pitcher, reliever, or starter, TBD, but Springs is the headliner in this deal. He has got several years more control. I believe it is 2 more years of control with an option for the 3rd season after that. Springs really remade himself. He really remade himself with the Tampa Bay Rays. Shocker that the Rays ended up getting the most out of a starting pitcher. Who knew that the Rays were very good at getting great pitchers? But, I mean, Springs was a mediocre reliever for quite a while. And then the Rays fixed him. Whatever was ailing him, whatever was inefficient with him, they got him fixed. They also signed the biggest free agent contract in their team history with Luis Severino, signed to a 3-year deal. And, other than their starting pitching, this team was solid last year. The A's were a lot better than people thought. I mean, their lineup has a lot of certified mashers in there. Lawrence Butler, honestly, one of the best hitters in baseball from basically July 1st on. Brent Rooker, legitimately one of the best hitters in baseball. No caveats, no nothing. Dude rakes. J.J. Bleday had a much better season than people anticipated. If you've thought about J.J. Bleday in the year of our Lord 2024, you're also probably a little bit of a sicko like me. Shea Langeliers, the absolute crutch of the Rangers. That just absolutely destroys the Rangers. A former Keller great, former Baylor standout. 29 home runs as a catcher. That guy bangs. Tyler Soderstrom, also great hitter. We're at the number 5 spot in this A's lineup. And then the rest of their lineups filled out with Zach Geloff, Seth Brown, Jacob Wilson, and Darrell Hernandez. That's just really, really solid lineup. I haven't even mentioned Estuary Ruiz, who might actually be somewhere in there. Not exactly sure where Ruiz would be in there, but he is one of the most dynamic base runners in there. This is a really, really solid lineup, and their bullpen, the back end is obviously locked down by Mason Miller, but they've got some other names in there. TJ McFarland, not a bad name in there. Tyler Ferguson had a solid year. Michael Otanya's solid year for him as well. And now, with a little bit more help at the top of their rotation in Luis Severino, in Jeffrey Springs, now there's not as much pressure on guys like J.P. Sears, Joey Estes, Mitch Spence to go out there and dominate. They've also got Luis Medina on the IL. They've also got Ken Waldichuk, a guy who I really like. Didn't have the best season. He had Tommy John surgery. Same with Medina. I'm not sure exactly when they're going to be back, but still part of their long-term plans. And even though I really absolutely can't stand John Fisher for only starting to spin, only starting to try as soon as he left Oakland, this is going to be a team that is going to be like A's teams of old. They're going to be scrappy. They're going to be annoying. They're going to be much better than you think with a lack of resources. And now there are going to be some resources poured in. I hate it. It's stupid. It's truly horrible for the fans in Oakland who deserved so much better. But they're going to be a team to be talked about as possibly winning this AL West. Don't sleep on this team, because this is not the last thing they've done. They're trying to get their payroll up into the, $150 million range, where they've been rocking pretty easily $60, $70 million. They're going to be in on a lot more free agents. That's not the only things they're going to do. And the Angels have also been very, very aggressive. I mean, signing Yusei Kikuchi to a 3-year deal. Also signing a catcher to back up Travis d'Arnaud to back up their star catcher Logan O'Hoppe, the youngster who I really, really like. Zach Neto's going to miss a little bit of time early on this season, but he is a really solid piece as an everyday shortstop. They also signed Jorge Soler, who's apparently going to play the outfield a little bit. Joe Adell is still there. I still like Joe Adell's potential, even though he's going into his age 26 season. Nolan Shanuel is a solid player. Oh yeah, they have Mike Trout. And for the first 2 months of last year before he got hurt, which has been unfortunately a theme with him, he was back to looking like the best player on the freaking planet. I mean, this is an interesting team. They're not going to win a whole lot. I really like Ron Washington as a manager. But still, this is going to be the worst team in the division this year. And I don't know that they're going to be that bad. They're really not. And the Seattle Mariners, whose lineup is a little bit scarier than I'd like to admit, who will never, ever be big players in free agency, or at least not for, top-end talent like the guys who they need. Like, they need more bats, but they're apparently also looking to be aggressive in trades, talking about potentially trading Luis Castillo, who Fangraphs lists as their number 2 starter. I think is closer to their 3rd or 4th best starter. He's also their most expensive starter. He's also their oldest starter. He's also the only one in their rotation who is not homegrown. Logan Gilbert, I think, clearly passed him in effectiveness last year. I think George Kirby clearly passed him in effectiveness. And as much as Bryce Miller is my nemesis, he is a very, very good pitcher. Brian Wu, a very, very good pitcher, both of whom might even be better than Castillo this year. And the Mariners talked about how, we don't know if we need to trade Castillo. We don't know if if teams are going to offer us enough. It's a lot of leverage play. Castillo is very expendable. They have been able to grow starters on trees down there, and also relief pitchers and just any type of pitcher. Not a whole lot of hitters. They have pretty comfortably the best farm system in this division, and I say that being very bullish on the Rangers farm system, but two out of these teams in this division have truly abysmal farm systems. That's the Angels and the Astros. The Astros got a little bit better with this trade acquiring Cam Smith, who is probably going to be a consensus top 100, if not top 50 prospect in the game, even if he ends up as a first baseman only. He's got a lot of potential as an offensive player, but still, this Mariners team, who has been second fiddle in the AL West the last few seasons, who finally broke their playoff drought only to start another one the very next year that has now lasted 2 seasons. Hopefully for them and Mariners fans, it won't last another, 21 years or whatever, like the last one did. But this is a team that has been pretty good for the last 3, 4, 5 years and just has not been able to get that across the finish line. But the Rangers, a team who did not win the division but won the World Series in 2023, not only have, I think, the most bright present for 2025, but also have the brightest future to start running this division for maybe the next half decade. We're talking about why that is, why the Rangers have not only the best player, but so many of the best of different types of things you could want. Best pitcher, best manager. We're talking about why that's so important for the Rangers as the Astros seemingly start to crumble. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means you bring your people together at live events, and that experience is so much better with Game Time. Game Time is the best way to get tickets for any live event you're looking to go to, and Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You've also got all-in pricing, and toggling this feature shows you the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. They've also got the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% the difference. They've also got your purchase covered by the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Now, after a disappointing 2024, it was looking like the Rangers might just be one and done. There was a lot of reason for optimism after that 2023 World Series with all of this young core with such a deep and talented lineup and with a farm system that I thought was better than most people anticipated. But 2024, what actually happened was the Rangers stunk. They were not good, and it was not particularly close. They were not particularly close to running this AL West, let alone even winning it, let alone even making the playoffs, let alone even finishing 500. So is it really the Rangers division to lose for the next few seasons? Let's take a look at some of the best things in this AL West. Who is the best position player in this AL West? Well, if he was healthy, it's probably Mike Trout, but at his age and with his injury history, I would say that that's not him. You look at around the AL West, who else is in this division? Who are the other stars in this division? I mean, you look at the Angels, and I just talked about Mike Trout. You look at the Mariners and their position players. Julio Rodriguez is in the discussion. You look at the A's. Brent Rooker is solid, but I don't know about best player in this division. You look at Houston, well, they just traded away their best player in Kyle Tucker. Yordan Alvarez is probably the next guy up. Maybe you talk about Jose Altuve. I'd still take Alvarez over Altuve. But then you look at the Rangers, and Corey Seager, I feel like he's pretty comfortably the best player in this division. I don't think it's particularly close. You want to talk about the best pitcher in this division? Heck, Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher on earth when healthy. That doesn't matter what division he's in. You want to talk about the best young player with the highest upside? That seems like it's pretty clearly Wyatt Langford, Julio Rodriguez maybe has a higher upside, but I think he just kind of is what he is at this point. What he is a pretty good player, but Wyatt's upside is seemingly limitless. You want to talk about even the best prospect who hasn't made his debut. Sebastian Walcott is by far the best prospect in this division. I don't think it's particularly close. I'm pretty sure that he is going to be a top 10 prospect in the game by the end of this season, if not at the start of this season. That kid has exceptionally high upside, and he has not even made it to the bigs just yet. You want to talk about the best manager? Bruce Bochy is maybe the greatest manager in the history of baseball, and I don't think anybody else in the division is anywhere close, even though I love Ron Washington because his time in Texas. In the front office, I think it's close. The Astros keep losing more and more smart people out of their front office. They've won the benefit of the doubt, but the only current GM or POBO in this division to win a World Series, that's right, it's Chris Young. The Rangers have an incredibly bright future. They have not only a good team for this season, you look at their lineup, this is pretty comfortably, I think, going to be the best lineup in the AL West, depending on how some things fall for the A's. But, I mean, the Rangers, you look at their projected lineup for next year, you have Nathaniel Lowe as your 5-hitter, Josh Jung as your 6-hitter, Jake Berger in the 7-hole as your DH, and then Jonah Heim and Evan Carter filling it out as your 9th place hitter. If Evan Carter is your 9th place hitter, that is a legitimate 9-deep lineup of solid, good hitters. That is a deep lineup, depending on whatever you get from Evan Carter, who might jump all the way up way higher in this lineup, depending on what he looks like, if he's closer to the 2023 version than the 2024 version, which I'm hoping so. They also have really, really good depth in Kyle Higashioka as the backup catcher if Jonah Heim continues to fall off a cliff offensively. They also have the best position player backups in the league in Josh Smith and Ezekiel Duran. Those guys are sensational utility players, and I think they'll get decent run if Ezekiel Duran isn't traded. And then Leody Taveras, if he's not an everyday player, if that's your 4th outfielder, that is an exceptional 4th outfielder / defensive replacement / pinch runner / whatever you want Leody Taveras to be. And then you look at the rotation, and it's really solid. You have Nate Eovaldi at the top, along with Jacob deGrom. Behind Jacob deGrom, I don't know why Fangraphs roster resource is listing Jacob deGrom as the Rangers' number 2 pitcher. That seems absolutely insane. And then you follow that up with Kamar Rocker, with Tyler Mahle, with Cody Bradford, with John Gray. The bullpen looks absolutely terrifying, and not in a good way. Not for the Rangers, because right now they have Jacob Webb projected as the Rangers closer. There's no way in heck the Rangers are going to enter a season like that. They've got a lot of work to do on that bullpen before they get to opening day. But even if they don't add, there's still plenty of pieces on the farm that could jump up and be really, really nasty relievers as soon as day one. But this Rangers future, I mean, you've got the young core that is going to be here for years to come. You have your stars lined up, signed up for a long, long time. In Seager, in Semien, you have Wyatt Langford there for a long time. Hopefully Adolis Garcia can bounce back. If not, then the Rangers will figure out a way to make up that replacement. They got basically nothing from Evan Carter last year. They got not all that much from Josh Jung last year. Adding Jake Berger for, it seems like, pennies on the dollar, where Jake Berger is a solid offensive player. If he's your best hitter, you're probably the White Sox or the Marlins. If he's your 4th or 5th or 6th best hitter, you're in a really, really good spot. It doesn't seem like there is a single hole in this lineup. But, again, I said that heading into the 2024 season, and we all saw how that went. But it's hard not to be incredibly cocky about the Rangers' future. I know they're coming off of a losing season. I know they're coming off of an embarrassing season. I know that the Houston Astros have run this division and most of Major League Baseball for half a decade now, when they were playing it clean. That's fine. That's fine. Eventually, all quote-unquote dynasties come to an end. They do. And with all of the different smart front office people that the Astros keep losing, with all of the meddling that Jim Crane keeps doing, I'd be absolutely... The most terrifying thing for a fan of a good team is an owner that's starting to get more and more involved. That's how really, really smart, really, really good teams start to crumble. Those empires crumble from within. See Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys if you want a little bit more proof of how that happens. But this Rangers team is set up to be contenders for years and years to come. Maybe I was a little bit premature when I was talking about a potential dynasty for the Rangers before the 2024 season, but they had all the makings of it. I mean, you have these potential future superstars in Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter. You also have solid, really, really good young homegrown pieces. You have Josh Smith, who was just a silver slugger this past year. You have one of the best backup catchers in the league in Kyle Gashioka. You have, Jake Berger, one of the best power bats in the league. It's a lot of power and not a whole lot else, but there's still, I think, a lot of offensive upside to gain from Berger. The Rangers could get the most out of him with their great hitting coaching staff. Semien's coming off of a very, very disappointing year. It still had a 4-WAR season. Seager missed a decent chunk of time, was not good for 6 weeks, and still had a 5-WAR season. Still had a 30-homer season as a freaking shortstop. That's not a normal thing. We forget about it because he just had a runner-up to MVP finish of a season in 2023 and a World Series MVP season in 2023. And this year, comparatively, was disappointing, but he's still one of the best freaking players in baseball. Adolis Garcia has been a multi-time All-Star, had the best single postseason series I've ever seen a single player have in the history of the game, or at least in the history of my lifetime, maybe in the history of ever. An incredible postseason run, an incredible clutch hitter. Nathaniel Lowe, still a really, really good season, an elite defensive first baseman, has a lot of offensive potential in there, has shown it at the big league level not that long ago, and I think could show it again in 2025. There were a lot of reasons to be very, very bullish on the future of the Texas Rangers and why they could run this division for the next 5 years. The Rangers have a good core. They have good ownership that is willing to spend, even when it looked like they weren't going to be willing to spend this offseason. But they see the window. They see other teams trying to go for it. They see what's happening in the AL West. This was pretty comfortably the worst division in baseball last year. And the Astros running it, they had 88 wins. They wouldn't have won a single other division. Heck, the next closest was 4 wins better. The Cleveland Guardians, who won the AL Central and also went to the ALCS. This AL West is wide, wide open, and the Astros trading away Kyle Tucker just kind of shows that not all empires can last forever. And the Rangers are hoping to be the next team in Texas to run this AL West and maybe even Major League Baseball for the better part of a half decade, maybe even a decade, maybe even forever. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself there, but you can still see why I am so freaking bullish on the Rangers' chances to not just win the AL West in 2025, but maybe, just maybe, have a streak of their own of winning this full season titles for 7 straight years, maybe even 8, because what's more fun than winning the AL West? It's one-upping the team that you hate the absolute most. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.